Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today we're shooting out 3 Telecaster styles of guitar. Now they're all blue and they all happen to be rather affordable as well, and what we're going to do today is find out which is best. Now this video came about because I recently bought the Harley Benton TE-62CC in Lake Placid Blue. This guitar was released in December of 2021 and I did a video of it, a full-length demo and review of it, which you can see elsewhere on my channel, and I got a lot of questions asking how does it compare to my other blue Telecasters, because of course blue is the key feature here. So I've got a blue 2014 Fender Mexican Standard Telecaster, and I've got a blue 2021 Squire Classic Vibe Esquire. So what we're going to do today is compare them in a variety of different musical styles. We'll talk a little bit about the specifications and the features of the 3 guitars, and at the end I'll tell you how my playing experience with them has been and which one I think is probably the best value for your money at the end of the day. So stay tuned for the rest of the video, but first let me tell you a little bit about the specifications of the 3 guitars. So the Harley Benton TE-62CC is brand new as of December 2021 and is part of the brand's deluxe series. Now it has a poplar body underneath this Lake Placid Blue finish. It's a very elegant, very traditional looking Telecaster style of guitar. The mint green scratch plate really does a good job of making it look rather classy indeed, and it's a traditional looking body too. So we've got 2 Roswell Alnico 5 Telecaster style pickups and a traditional Telecaster 3 saddle style bridge here in chrome. Now all of the hardware is Harley Benton / generic / no name stuff. Here we have a 3-way selector switch, a volume control and a tone control, just like you would expect from a standard Telecaster. Moving up to the neck of the TE-62 then, and we have a roasted maple neck with a maple fingerboard, or as Harley Benton refer to it on their website, vintage style caramelized maple, which does sound rather tasty, I think you'll agree. Now if you're familiar with Telecaster style necks, you'll be familiar with this one, although it has a bit of a modern twist. It has the standard Telecaster scale length of 648mm, 25.5 inches, as all 3 of the guitars do, but it has a modern D-shaped neck profile, so it's a very comfortable feeling neck to play. It's satin finish too, it's really slinky and easy to get up and down. We've got 21 frets here. Harley Benton don't tell us what size they are, but I suspect they're medium jumbo, possibly medium. They feel good, they feel modern, they feel very easy to play, and the fingerboard radius is a rather flat 12 inches or 305mm. Here we have a standard plastic generic nut, and moving up to the headstock there, it looks rather Tele-ish, and we've got 6 inline tuners. Again, no name stuff. So this is the Harley Benton TE-62CC. As of December 2021, this guitar costs €149. Now, the direct comparison in terms of colour and looks anyway would be the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire, and this costs €389 as of 2021. It's very easy to see a few key differences. We've got a darker fretboard on this one, and of course we've only got 1 pickup because it's an Esquire rather than a Telecaster, but it's Lake Placid Blue in finish, and although they look very similar on the camera there, in reality the Squire's Lake Placid Blue is a deeper, richer shade of blue, and it's a fair bit more sparkly as well, although that is hard to show up on the camera. It's something you'd need to really check out in person to see the main differences. So let me pop down the Harley Benton. So the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire has a NATO body underneath this Lake Placid Blue finish, and it has the double binding front and back there. It's a really beautiful looking, traditional looking guitar too. It has an off-white scratch plate, and it has a traditional 3 saddle chrome bridge. The hardware on this guitar again is no name / Squire stuff. We've got a Fender designed Tele Esquire traditional style pickup though, which is a very cool thing indeed. We've got a volume control, a tone control, and a 3-way selector switch there. Now on an Esquire, of course, you don't have 2 pickups to play with, but you do have 3 pickup selections there. I'll be using all 3 of them in the video, and what you get with an Esquire is this. On the traditional bridge setting, the tone control is cut out of the guitar circuit, and you get all the top end sparkle and spank that you could imagine from that kind of guitar. Far more sound examples of this guitar, by the way, on my dedicated Esquire video, which you can see in the links and the description down there. When you move it to the middle here, it's more like a standard Tele bridge pickup, and the tone control is in operation. Flick it across to the traditional neck pickup selector setting, and you basically take all the tone, all the high end out of the circuit. The tone control is also bypassed, and you basically get a muffled bass guitar-esque sound, which is what this was originally designed for. Now that's not a very useful pickup sound in modern day guitar playing, but it is something which I will just demonstrate very briefly during the video. So moving up to the neck of the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire, we have a maple neck finished in vintage poly tint, and we have an Indian laurel fingerboard there. That's not something which I personally like too much. I always prefer rosewood over Indian laurel. Call me crazy, but that's just my thing. We have 21 frets here, and they are narrow tall in nature. This is the only guitar I have with narrow tall frets, and the neck profile of the Esquire is what Squier refer to as a C, so it's slightly chunkier than their modern C, and combined with the poly finish, that makes this one the least quick of the three necks, at least in my opinion. Now, as standard on modern classic vibe Esquires, you get a bone nut on this guitar, which I think is fantastic. That should really help with tuning stability. And when it comes to the neck fingerboard radius, we have a radius of 9.5 inches. Moving up to the headstock there, we get that classic traditional Fender shaped Tele/Esquire headstock and 6 inline no-name tuners. So that's the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire, and I'll now pick up my 2014 Fender Mexican Telecaster. Now this is a Fender special run, an FSR guitar, because it came in a beautiful ocean blue candy satin finish. Look at that. I absolutely love this guitar. As soon as I saw it, it caught my eye and I had to have it, and it's gone on to become my #1 guitar and has been for these past 7 years. So because it's a Fender, it's the most expensive of the three. This cost me around 400 Great British pounds new. That's around 450 euros, I would say, and it's had some modifications since. But it started out life as a 2 single coil Telecaster pickup guitar with a Fender 6 saddle bridge. Now, I've put a Creamery wide range humbucker in the neck position, and I've put a Wilkinson bridge on it with 3 brass saddles. Okay, so those add probably around 150 to 200 euros worth of value to the price, let's say, and they've both been more than worth their value in my opinion. Now, I've kept the wide range Creamery humbucker on single coil mode for the duration of this video just to make it a fairer test in terms of tele sounds. I accessed the humbucker and the single coil sounds on that through the push on the tone control. This is the volume control, this is the 3-way selector switch, and again, just feast your eyes just for a few more seconds upon that satin ocean blue candy body with the black scratch plate. Beautiful, beautiful guitar. Anyway, moving up to the neck then, and we have a standard Fender Telecaster neck. So it's a rosewood fingerboard and a maple neck there. It's kind of Fender's standard satin finish, and it's their standard modern C neck profile shape. So it's kind of a universal one-size-fits-all sort of a profile. It just feels at home in my hands. We've got that lovely rosewood fingerboard with lovely patterning in the wood there, 21 medium jumbo frets, and the fretboard radius is 9.5 inches. Up here we have a bone nut, which is another thing which I've had added. The guitar came as standard with a synthetic bone nut, and a real bone nut has been a massive improvement in terms of tuning stability for me. Up here at the Fender Telecaster headstock though, we have 6 inline Fender tuners. So this is the Fender Mexican Standard Telecaster, and we're going to put it up against the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire and the Harley Benton TE-62CC. We're going to play a bunch of different sounds now in a bunch of different styles and see how they stack up against one another. My rig for today is going to be my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 amp head. So we'll start on the amps clean channel, we'll play some traditional stuff, some folk, some country, some pop, and maybe some indie. Then we'll go to the amps crunch channel and do some classic rock and a bit more indie, because I like indie. Then we'll go to the lead channel and do some heavier stuff, some harder rock, maybe some prog rock, maybe some punk rock. And finally, we'll go back to the amps lead channel. I'll engage my Rev G3 distortion pedal. We'll tune these 3 teles down to drop D, and we'll see if they can do a bit of modern metal and even a bit of chugging. Enough talk then. This is the Fender Telecaster versus the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire versus the Harley Benton TE-62CC. Let's play them now, and we'll speak in more detail about them afterwards. Okay then, so that was the battle of the three blue Telecaster types, and I hope you enjoyed the tones. Now, I'm pretty sure you've probably already picked your favourite based on the riffs, based on the tones that we heard throughout the playing part of the video, so leave me a comment down below. Did you like the Fender Telecaster best? Did you like the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire best? Or did you like the Harley Benton TE-62CC best? Leave me a comment with your choice and a reason why maybe, and I look forward to having a few discussions down there with all of you about this later on. So let me tell you now a little bit more in detail what I think about these three guitars. And I guess we have to start by saying that the Fender Telecaster has a little bit of an unfair advantage here because it is my #1 guitar and has been for about 7 years. So I've played it basically daily ever since I've had it. It really does feel like an extension of my body. I pick it up and it just feels like it's totally at home for me. It's also the most expensive guitar of the three, so it has the advantage of having the best in terms of body woods and specifications and features, and it's been modded too. So in that sense, it has a bit of an unfair head start on the other two guitars, but how did it perform? That's what we're going to discuss a little bit now. And we'll start by talking about the build quality of the three guitars. No surprises on the build quality front then when I tell you that I feel that the Fender Telecaster has the highest build quality of the three guitars. Of course, it had that head start. It was built in the factory at a specific price point with better materials, better specifications. It was built to be a more expensive guitar, and in many ways it feels like that. You know, it has an alder body, it has a maple neck and a rosewood fingerboard, which I really love. It has all the Fender standard mod cons. It's not the best guitar in the world in terms of specifications, not by a long shot, but for me when I got it, it was the most expensive guitar I'd ever had up to that point. It's still the second most expensive guitar I've ever owned, believe it or not, and I absolutely love everything about it, and it feels like an extension of me when I play it. So in terms of build quality on this guitar, I've never had any problems whatsoever. Possibly the weakest thing about Fender Mexican Teles is something like the tuners or the bridge, but I've never had any problems with these tuners whatsoever. This guitar has always been incredibly stable in terms of tuning stability, and now with the added bone nut, it's absolutely fantastic. The original bridge on this guitar was a Fender Modern 6 saddle one, and I changed it for the Wilkinson triple brass saddle bridge. I've had no problems with that bridge either. I love Wilkinson stuff, and I really find that that bridge gave me a little bit of an extra twang, and it just felt more comfortable to rest my right hand on it, because I often rest my picking hand on the bridge of a guitar when I'm playing. So that's my thoughts on the Fender Tele. Now, when it comes to the Harley Benton TE-62CC, that guitar costs, well, probably about 25 to 30% of what the Fender Tele costs, and it's certainly better in terms of the percentages and in terms of build quality. It doesn't feel like a budget price guitar. That guitar feels absolutely fantastic, and I speak more in detail about this in the individual video that I did on the guitar, but the TE-62CC really does feel good, and for 149 euros it feels fantastic. I couldn't find anything majorly wrong with it whatsoever. The finish had all been done well, the guitar had been set up well at the factory, the frets were good, the intonation was good, the action was good as well, no problems whatsoever. So really happy with the Harley Benton TE-62CC as well in terms of build quality, and the loser in the build quality stakes for me has to be the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire. Now there's nothing particularly wrong with it, and in terms of how it's been built at the factory, absolutely cool. I love the Lake Placid Blue finish, it's been put together really well, but in terms of setup and in terms of the guitar holding tune, I've had a few issues there. You might have heard it a little bit in the playing samples that the intonation is not quite spot on, and that guitar seems to be very, very sensitive compared to the other two. Every time I pick it up again, the intonation just seems to have gone out a little bit more. It gets tweaked every now and again, but then it just seems to go out again, and I hadn't played it for a few weeks before I picked it up for this video, and I found that that was an issue again. So that guitar is going to have to go to my tech, to my friend Uwe, for him to fettle it and to make it that extra 10% or so better. Now when it comes to the Harley Benton and the Squier, they both have generic no-name hardware, and you would think, wouldn't you, that Squier stuff would be better than Harley Benton stuff, but actually I feel like they're very similar. So overall then, I feel that the Telecaster from Fender is the highest in terms of build quality, as it should be for the price, and maybe a little bit of a surprise, but for me personally, the Harley Benton beats the Squier just in the build quality stakes, especially when I take into account the fact that it costs less than half of the price of the Squier. Next we come to the playability and the necks of the three guitars, and this is where they differ quite significantly, and it's also going to be a thing where what you prefer is possibly going to be different to what I prefer, because of course it's a personal taste thing, what kind of necks you like. Now starting with the Fender Tele, we have this generic, universal, one-size-fits-all, modern C Fender shaped neck, which I really like. Combine that with the rosewood fretboard and the medium jumbo frets, and I'm totally at home here. I really love this guitar, and it's a joy for me to play. It always has been. I love Teles, I love the slab body, I don't need body contours or anything like that. I find it incredibly comfortable to play. This guitar is in the middle of the three in terms of weights. It's about 3.3 kilograms, about 7.3 pounds. It sits really well on a strap. It's great to play sitting down or standing up. A wonderful to play guitar, and yeah, I love this modern C-shaped neck. It's really slinky, really easy to play, and it's always been fantastic, and I always use this neck to measure up other guitar necks that I play. And so when I recently got the Harley Benton neck in on the TE-62CC, I was very happy with how that one played, and I'm just going to pick that one up now. So the TE-62CC has what Harley Benton called a vintage style caramelized maple neck and maple board, or roasted maple to the rest of the world. And I was bowled over when I got this guitar out of the box, and again for 149 euros I was thinking, how good can it be? And it's really good. Of course it could be improved by a setup, as every new guitar could be, but it feels fantastic. I really love this modern D neck. It's a quite slim to medium feeling neck. It's a little bit deeper in this dimension that you might think, but otherwise it just sits very well in the hand. I think it's going to be really good for younger players, for guitar students, and for more experienced players too. It feels really fantastic. The frets are really good, the action and intonation too. This guitar has been a joy for me to play, and when it comes to the rest of the body, we're in 100% Tele town here, so no issues there. This guitar, straight away, straight out of the box, has been fantastic for me to play. And of course it could benefit from a setup, just like any other new guitar could, but I'm really happy with it so far, and I hope it continues to be this way for me moving into 2022. And now we come to the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire, the third guitar of the three. So the Esquire is the guitar that's had a few intonation issues in the past. You might have heard it a little bit in some of the playing samples, and that's one aspect that really affects the playability. And as I said, despite a few tweaks, I really need to get this guitar to a tech to get it sorted out for good, because as well as the intonation on the lower, thicker strings being a little bit off now and again, it's also got a very high action, and I want a decent, competent tech to do some work on it to make this guitar the best that it can be. Now in terms of the neck on this guitar, it's a C-shaped neck, not a modern C, a more traditional C shape, so it's thicker than the other two, and it also has this vintage poly lacquer. It looks great, it looks fantastic, but that does make it a little bit harder to play than the other two guitars. You can get a little bit of stickiness if you play the guitar for quite a while, so if you've got a guitar with a finish like this on the neck, wipe it down, make sure you keep it clean between playing, especially if you get sweaty, and you'll be good there. But yeah, if you prefer a slightly smaller neck and if you want to play fast, I would recommend a satin finished neck over this one. Now the fingerboard here, we have Indian laurel, and despite my personal dislike for Indian laurel and other woods like Pau Ferro over something like rosewood, I have to say that I'm quite happy with this Indian laurel board so far. It's not dry, it feels good, it's slightly lighter than rosewood, and I have to say that it's coming up darker in the camera here than it is in real life, so it's a medium brown compared to the dark brown patterned rosewood on the Fender Tele, but it's a decent fingerboard and I'm not having any issues with it so far. So my tech friend Uwe is definitely going to have to look at the nut on this guitar, and we'll look at the tuners too and see if I need to upgrade them to keep this guitar in tune. But in terms of the rest of the playability of the instrument, this guitar has a NATO body and it's the lightest of the three, so it's 3.2 kilograms. The heaviest of the three is the Harley Benton, that's 3.4 kilograms, which is about 7.8 pounds. So they're all roughly in the same ballpark in terms of weight. They all feel good to play sitting down or standing up, but this one, the Esquire, is the lightest. Hey, maybe because there's only one pickup. So there you go. In terms of the necks and in terms of playability, for me, it's kind of a toss-up between the Fender and the Harley Benton, but at the end of the day, I would pick my Fender over any other guitar in terms of how that neck feels and how used to it I am. And now we come to another crucial aspect of these three Teles, which is the tones. Which has the best clean tone? Which has the best medium gain and high gain sounds? And which one sounds most like a Telecaster? Now that might sound like a weird question given that these are all Telecaster guitars, but actually, as I was comparing the three directly to one another, I came to the conclusion that my Fender Telecaster actually sounds less like a Telecaster than the other two in some settings, particularly on the clean tones, and I think that's because of the pickups that I've got in there. So the 2014 Fender bridge pickup here was the original pickup that came with the guitar, and it's a more modern sounding pickup. I think it's higher output, it has more mids in it for me, and it has a thicker sound, and it doesn't give you that Tele twang the same way that the Harley Benton and the Esquire do. Of course, the creamery wide range humbucking pickup in the neck there is a different kettle of fish altogether, but that does Tele neck single coil tones pretty well too. But when I got my Harley Benton TE-62 the other day and I plugged it in for the first time, I was blown away by those Roswells. They really do very, very good, authentic, traditional Tele tones. They have that sparkle and twang and really nice top end tone. They're perfect for country, perfect for pop and folk and clean indie sounds as well. It just sounds good. It's a lovely, recognizable sound, and that guitar has it. Now, the bridge pickup on the Esquire, of course, has that too. It's a really, really bright pickup. It's got loads of top-end sparkle. Sometimes it can be too much, and of course you can dial that back, but it's a really, really great guitar for clean tones too, for just bashing out cowboy chords or doing country riffs. You can sit there and do that all day with this guitar. Now, when we pushed up the gain a little bit more and went to the Amps Crunch channel, when we did the classic rock and the indie rock, that's when my Tele came alive a little bit more, and the slightly more aggressive pickups really work for AC/DC styles of riffs and for indie rock too. Now, when you put a lot of gain into a Telecaster bridge pickup, it can become ice-picky and brittle and glassy, but this guitar doesn't do that whatsoever. That's something that you notice a little bit more with the other two. Now, they have slightly more high-end, slightly more sparkle, and they're a little bit thinner in terms of their overall tonality, so you have to make sure that you dial back some of the top end when going high gain with traditional sounding Tele pickups. I was, however, really, really impressed with the Harley Benton when it came to classic rock and indie. It just sounded at home there too. It sounded thick, it sounded quite fat, and it just did the job. It was really, really good. The Squire Esquire is also really, really good for classic rock. It's a no-nonsense guitar. Plug it in, rock out, let the power chords ring out, and have fun. That's what the Esquire is all about. When we got up to the high gain sounds and when we went down into drop D, I thought we got some more distinctions between the three guitars, and I thought that the Fender Telecaster, with its more modern, aggressive sounding bridge pickup, sounded a little bit different. This guitar sounds a little bit more like perhaps a slightly more generic modern rock guitar than the other two. It has a little bit less of that Telecaster personality. It still sounds fantastic for rock and metal, and it does have a little bit more of a fuller sound, and I really like that about it. When we went down to drop D, it was clear that all three of the guitars had immense amounts of clarity. So you can play metal on these guitars. I mean, I think most of you would use a humbucking pickup, probably an active humbucking pickup, to play proper chuggy metal, but you can do it on a Telecaster. Just get a noise gate and you'll be absolutely fine for it. With the Esquire and with the Harley Benton TE-62CC, I thought that they had had perhaps a little bit more top end that you need to dial back for playing metal stuff, but they did it quite well. Overall though, for metal tones, for me, I would pick the Telecaster as my guitar of choice. So if I came to the question of which guitar would I pick for all four sounds overall, for me I would pick my Telecaster for its versatility, and after that I would pick the Harley Benton TE-62CC. The Esquire's bridge pickup sounds fantastic, but that guitar of course lags behind a bit in the versatility stakes because it only has the one pickup. And so with all that said and done, with everything we've played and heard and spoken about today, which of these guitars is the best? Well, I think your answer is probably going to depend on what you personally want and what kind of music you personally play. But for me, myself, if I was to choose one of these guitars to pick to keep, it would be the Fender Telecaster that I have here. Now, in terms of build quality, this guitar just feels slightly better to me. It just feels like slightly better woods were used. It feels like slightly better hardware is being used. And of course, I've had it modded and it's molded itself to my hands over the past 7 years anyway. So this guitar just fits for me and is the perfect choice. That said, however, when it comes to tones, I really love the tones from this guitar, but the Harley Benton has got me thinking about putting some more traditional Tele pickups into my Fender. And that in itself is a massive victory for the Harley Benton, because that guitar costs 150 euros. So it's about, what, a quarter of the price of the Fender Tele, and it really outperforms itself in that way. If you've got a budget of around 150 to 200 euros, the Harley Benton sits really well within that price point. Now, the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire is more expensive again. That's around 390 euros at time of filming. But if you want a Squire, which is similarly priced to the Harley Benton, you'll be looking at a Bullet Telecaster or an Affinity Telecaster. Now, I've played both of those, and I have to say that the Harley Benton for me is a better guitar than the Squire Bullet Telecaster, and it's probably a better guitar than most of the Squire Affinity Teles that I've played. But this is something where I would recommend try out a few guitars if you can, if you're looking for something like that. Pick the one that speaks to you and you'll be a happy player. For me personally, again, with the Esquire, I love that guitar. When I pick it up and play it on its own, without the context of the other instruments, I really enjoy it. Okay, it needs a setup right now, but it's super fun to play. It's super simple. You pick it up, you rock it out, you put it down, and you go home and you're done. It's a fantastically simple guitar that just makes you play. So I really love that instrument, but when you compare it directly to the other two, it is a little bit lacking in options. Most of the time I don't miss them, but I really do sometimes enjoy the tones of a genuine neck pickup. Now, the Roswells on the Harley Benton are really decent pickups, so don't be frightened by the Harley Benton. If you're thinking of getting a more affordable Telecaster and you're worried about not getting the name, not getting a Squire or even a Fender, I would say don't be. I've been really pleasantly surprised with the Roswells, and I think this guitar is more than worth its money, and I'm definitely going to be keeping mine. So if I'm ranking the guitars in a top three, I'd say the number one spot goes to my Fender Telecaster, the number two spot goes to the Harley Benton TE-62CC, and the number three goes to the Squire Classic Vibe Esquire. That was a hard top three to compile, but at the end of the day, if you have to be kind of cold-hearted about it and really compare the guitars and A, B, C them together, then the Esquire just loses out in a couple of aspects for me. Again, your mileage may vary, you might have different opinions, so write me your opinions in the comments. I'm really looking forward to hear what you guys have to say, and if you have any questions, let me know too, because I've spoken a lot about these guitars, but there are other things that you might want to know. So if there's anything else that you feel was missing from this video and you'd like me to tell you, just let me know and I will answer to the best of my ability. I hope this video has given you a lot of information though about these three different models, and I hope it's helped you make your mind up if you're considering maybe going for one of the three on offer. What I want to do in the future is maybe get a few more Squires in, some proper Squire Teles that I can compare with the Harley Benton, maybe another Fender Tele, maybe one of the newer Fender Player Teles. Who knows? There are so many different Tele models out there. The world is your oyster in that context. That's been it for today's video though. If you're still around, if you're still watching, please drop me a like and a subscribe, because that really helps the channel, and I have a lot of other similar videos where I compare and contrast affordable guitars. I do stuff with pedals too, I do stuff with amps, and I speak to a lot of cool people in the musical instrument industry. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.